What's up, guys? JonJonTheWise here, and I got another Cyberpunk video for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about the saviors of the dark future, the Nomads. And I'm not just talking about Nomads and what their role is in Cyberpunk. I want to get into the philosophy of what a Nomad looks like in the dark future. But before we get into that, make sure you guys join the Discord community. The link is in the description below. It's a Discord for Cyberpunk Red 2020 and other tabletop game fans. We're just waiting to be your friend. So come be our friend, Choomba. And make sure you guys sign up for that Patreon, patreon.com/JonJonTheWise. That is the best way to support me. I appreciate all the support from this community, whether you like, you subscribe, or you give me a couple bucks on that Patreon. I really appreciate all the love and support I get from this community. And Tabletop Cyberpunk is my podcast. It is available on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere else you listen to podcasts. It's more versions of Cyberpunk. I got interviews there. I've got some of my videos are actually uploaded there. So if you want to listen to them on your daily commute, it is the place to be for more Cyberpunk coming from me. And last but not least, make sure you guys follow me on social media at JonJonTheWise on all social media. That's where you can find me, even on TikTok. That's right. For all my boomers out there, hop on that TikTok. I'll see you guys there. All right, let's get into this video. All right, so first we got to talk about what a nomad is. What are their origins? In Cyberpunk 2020, the RPG that I grew up playing, the nomad had a special ability called family. And that basically sums up what they are. They are a group of individuals in the dark future that have banded together and have created a family. And blood has nothing. I mean, blood is part of your family for sure, but it's like an extended family. Everybody is brought in from either your neighborhood or they're your coworkers or something. Some kind of circumstances have brought this group of people together. Displacement and survival is a big idea of what nomads have gone through in the dark future. It's definitely something that is a common ground or a common denominator with all of the corporate wars that go on, with all of the natural disasters, government collapsing. The only people that you can rely on are the people next to you and the people that you call family. So no matter where you are on this planet, wherever you are displaced, your home is with those people. Nomads have decided that if there's anybody that they're going to trust, it's going to be the people that they call family. And that's also one of those concepts that I really like. I really love the idea where it doesn't matter whether you're blood or not blood. We just decide right here at one moment in time, like, you are a part of my family, I'm a part of your family. We're going to look out for each other and only each other in this dark hell we call the dark future. So you might be asking, what happened to these nomads after they decided to flee the cities, get away from governments, and basically fend for themselves? Well, after the dust settled and the cities started to rebuild, government started taking control again, these nomads did not want to let go of their freedom. And because of that, they were shunned by society. They were shunned as outsiders, people that don't want to live in normal civilization. And something came around called the state identification numbers. And this is basically a social security number. And the only ones that didn't get social security numbers or state identification numbers are the nomads. And part of their whole mystique in the 2020s was they were called zeros. They didn't have a number. They didn't have social security. They didn't rely on the government. So they had no way of buying a house, becoming a part of a corporation, taking a loan, opening a business. None of that kind of stuff can ever go down for them. They basically had to rely on themselves. And if they were traveling through a free state like Texas, the Texas Rangers were actively going out looking for these zeros or people without a state identification number to arrest them. It was illegal to do so. So they've always had this chip on their shoulder where all they tried to do was survive. They finally fended for themselves, probably lost loved ones. And then now Uncle Sam's coming and telling them, all right, well, now you got to pay your tax and be part of this society. Some would argue the nomads have their eyes wide open, while the city people, they think that they're living in some kind of government controlled area. There's kind of some semblance of safety. There's laws that are protecting you. And all of that is BS. Corporations run everything. And the nomads know this. They know that it's all an illusion. They don't want to live the illusion. They've already lived real life. Real life is fending for yourself out in the elements and getting yours and taking care of the people around you. Anything past that is just fake. It's just something corporations or governments or religious organizations have put together to control the mass population. And nomads have decided they don't want to be controlled anymore. And that is the dichotomy of what's going on with nomads and regular people. You got edge runners living in the city, living the city life, trying to make a difference for themselves. And then you got the nomads living in the wastelands thinking to themselves, these cities, they're not even real. And in a flip of a switch, they can all be gone. As we saw in Cyberpunk Red, as the timeline moved forward, another corporate war happened and everything collapsed. So maybe we should be listening to these nomads. And that's where we come in with Cyberpunk Red and the data crash of 2022, with Raish Bartmoss dropping some kind of crazy virus. For those of you that don't know the story, he basically crashed the entire internet of the Cyberpunk universe. That means no more going online, no more hacking databases from your apartment. Now everything is either a local area network or snail mail. And who's going to be delivering the snail mail? And what I mean by snail mail is, you get in a car, you say, hey, send this message to this person in New York from LA. All right. Someone gets in a car, drives all the way to New York, drops off the message. How is that done? Well, of course, the people that have been living in the in-between areas of all these cities, those are the best guides and the best people to find the routes for that mail and information and cargo and shipments. Nomads. And that's why they're the saviors of the dark future. In the 2020s, everybody relied on corporations to survive. They relied on corporations to make sure that the machine is going. It's a world that we understand. And we've seen it with everything that happened. I'm sure I don't need to say the word and be demonetized. But the stuff that's been going on around us, we know that if infrastructure stops for one moment, what kind of catastrophic effect and butterfly effect that has, right? Domino effect. That's what I was trying to say. And the nomads have decided that they're going to basically cut in through all of that, and they're going to save people because the corporations failed. They collapsed. All that infrastructure that they built, all that information, the internet, all of it is gone. So they have to rely on people that have been not relying on that the entire time. They've been relying on themselves the entire time. And this is where nomads have been helping everybody in the dark future. It's interesting to think what could be if the nomads weren't there. If there were no nomads to help with trade routes and keeping civilizations afloat, what would happen? The corporations aren't there. And that's part of an idea that I've been running in my head through my homebrew campaign of the Amber Oasis. The idea is that in Waco, Texas, let's say, I made it up, that it was basically a corporate zone city. It was run by corporations. It had white picket fences and security, and people would commute to Dallas and Austin and other parts of Texas nearby using a hyper train to get to work. So Waco was a little bit of a paradise outside of the big city. You'd have like a little city environment. Well, once all those corporations collapsed, all the security forces left, and all these people were left to defend themselves. And of course, they have no experience with that. These are soft people. These are people that have been relying on corporations for their own safety. And now that the corporations are gone, that's where the bandits come in, the booster gangs, and the other bad guys that want to take the things that you have, especially now that they know that you're vulnerable. And that's basically where my story starts, of that corporation, the people that live in Waco, they banded together and made a nomad family called the Amber Connection. But I'm digressing. Let's talk about the types of nomads that there are. I've broken them up into some types of categories. And let's talk about the more traditional kind first. The traditional nomad that we all know is that Mad Max aesthetic. They have a bunch of vehicles that they hodgepodge together and jury rig to keep them afloat. And they have a giant motor pool of a group of people that are moving. They're on the move. They're always on wheels. So they're perfect for escorts, delivery, or any kind of trading of goods and stuff like that. A lot of fixers will use them to get things from cities to cities. Government officials will run contracts with nomad groups because, hey, they got an expertise. You can't deny them that, even if they don't have a social number. In the time of the red, all of that doesn't even matter. The nomads have a special service they can offer, so you just pay them and let them do their thing. So there isn't much else to talk about with that. I mean, if you guys played Cyberpunk 2077, the Aldecados, I don't remember. One of those. They are a typical nomad group. They live just outside of the city. They operate that way. They're a close-knit family. And what really makes them strong is their ability to hoard their resources of vehicles, weapons, gear, cyberware. I mean, you name it. They just take care of each other with the stuff that they have. That is a traditional nomad group, and that's what we're probably used to when we think about them. Now, there's another type of nomad group called skills and services, is what I like to call them. These are groups that have some kind of specific specialization, whether they're a construction nomad group, which means they have construction equipment, big stuff to move earth, stuff to move buildings, create houses, create towns, carpentry. I mean, you name it, that kind of stuff. If there's a nomad group that's just really good at doing that and has the resources, they're a skill or service group. There are also nomad groups that are humanitarian. They go around and help people. They have the resources like food or information, or they're hoarding information to try to help them, help mankind, like the historians. I believe that they're called in Home of the Brave. Yes, Home of the Brave, a Cyberpunk 2020 source book. There is a nomad group that basically goes around collecting whatever books that they can find, trying to collect information and trying to make sure that history is not lost in the dark future. Now, moving on to another group of nomads. These are nomads that I call dangerous. These are the type that you do not want to come across. Now, while all nomad families can be dangerous, especially when you cross them and they consider you their enemy, these nomad groups that I'm mentioning are really built for the violence of the dark future. The first example that comes to mind are bandits. These are ones that roam the roads that you don't take because you stay in your safe little city. But if you ever venture out of that city, which is probably dangerous in the first place, you're going to be coming across these bandits, and they're going to be destroying everything you have, taking everything you have to make it their own. I mean, we all know what this is. If you've ever played any kind of tabletop RPG or you watched any kind of fantasy movie, these are the bandits on the side of the road that hit the caravan, right? Well, the same idea goes in the dark future. These people look out for each other. I like to consider them a nomad booster gang because that's really how they operate. Another type of dangerous nomad group is the soldiers, which was also in the Home of the Brave, or it could have been in Wildside. It's one of those Cyberpunk 2020 source books. And this is a group of people that were part of a combat operation group. I always mess it up. I think it's COG or COG for short. And basically the idea is the American military, since everything was kind of devastated, they lost so many forces in the Southam War, and the corporate wars came and everything got kind of messed up. Now, instead of having an Air Force, Marines, and an Army and all of those different branches, they just put whatever groups are near each other in proximity into one group and call them a combat operation group. Now, these combat operation groups, they get really close to each other. You know, they have more loyalty to each other than they do their own branch of service. So what had happened was with these soldiers is they decided to desert. They said, let's collect our families. Let's collect the people we care about. We have all this military equipment, and we can decide what we want to do. Who's going to tell us otherwise? We're basically a walking army. And as long as people stay out of our way and not tell us what to do and let us do our own thing within reason, we won't be bothering anybody. And that's what they did. They just broke off, took all that military equipment and experience, and made their own family called the Soldiers. And I find that really interesting. Just imagine you're moving throughout the country from state to state, and you just see tanks and jets and helicopters and foot soldiers and full gear. You're like, are we at war? What's going on over here? No, that's just a family called the Soldiers, and they're just in this area, so, tread lightly. Now I'm going to offer you guys some ideas of alternative nomad groups. These are ones that are a little bit on the fringe, a little bit crazy, a little bit wild, but that's what Cyberpunk is about, right? My first idea of a fringe group are cults. These are cult nomads. These are the ones that are doing ritual sacrifices. They live in the forest, and they're worse than the bandits. The bandits will just kill you and take your stuff. These will kill you slowly while they read some incantations or something out of a book that some madman wrote 20 years ago. But that's the idea. That's the quirkiness of them. They're a family, they're a group, and the reason that they got together isn't just for survival. It's to push some weird religious or crazy agenda that they have from their cult and cult leader. Another idea are city nomads. Now, these are nomads that have left their family and left the wastelands to go live in an actual city, and they've decided, you know what? Why should we go out and live in the wilderness when we could just live in a city and live with the same culture and the same kind of hierarchy that we did out there, but we're just doing it in here. They still have all their vehicles, they still have all their equipment and resources, but they're just located within a city. I love the idea of this because I think it makes sense. It makes sense that a group of nomads might travel into a city and decide, you know what, why don't we just bunk up over here, especially in Cyberpunk Red, where social identification numbers don't even matter anymore. They're, some places welcome them with open arms because they're the ones that have been bringing in supplies day and night, week after week, and making sure nobody starves in the city. So people look at nomads a little bit differently. I think nomads would maybe live in a city if they felt like it was appropriate for their culture. If you think about it, the dark future would be pitch black without the nomads. I mean, there wouldn't be anything. It would be the dark nothing because everybody's dead, everybody's starving, and everyone's fending for themselves. And you'd have some kind of post-apocalyptic cyberpunk world that is just like terrible. I mean, you'd have people traveling from city to city, finding rubble and destruction and dead bodies everywhere as people are starving to death. And if it wasn't for the nomads to make sure that goods and services can get across borders, then people would literally die. And while when we think about cyberpunk, we always think about the same kind of thing, a big cyborg eye, a metal arm, style over substance, doing wheelies down Night City while you're shooting at the cops behind you. Yeah, that's all well and good, but nomads are really the backbone of every civilization in Cyberpunk Red. They're the ones that make sure that that gun that you're shooting the cops with got to you a week before in a shipment. They're making sure that the motorcycle you're riding also got to you a week before in a shipment. And they're making sure that the police that are shooting at you have enough ammunition to take care of the city because of a package that came a week before from the nomads. And last but not least, nomads have proven that everybody has a shot to survive in the dark future, no matter how grim the odds are. I mean, they had nothing. They had absolutely nothing but the people around them and the limited resources that they have around them. And now they finally have gotten redemption. People have understood that without them, we wouldn't be where we are. So next time you guys want to build a nomad in your game, or you have a nomad as a player in your group, think about these ideas. Think about the kind of things that you can flesh out with your characters to make them a lot more interesting in your Cyberpunk Red game. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the love and support. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. We'll see you guys on the next one. All right, take care. Bye.